All right, so we're diving deep today into the world of intimacy and relationships.
Ooh, yeah, always a fun topic.
Right, always a fun topic. And, we're flipping the script a little bit. We're putting pleasure first, front and center.
Okay, I like it.
And specifically, we are going to be exploring this book, She Comes First, by Kerner.
I've heard good things.
Yeah, it's making some waves. We've got a couple of excerpts here,
Mm.
and I'm telling you, this isn't your average relationship advice.
Okay.
Get ready to maybe rethink some assumptions and definitely learn some secrets, maybe to a more fulfilling and a more connected relationship.
Sounds good.
So what's really interesting about Kerner's approach here is that he blends this practical advice with a deep dive into the psychology of intimacy.
Right.
It's not just about telling you what to do, but it's really helping you understand why it matters.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a multi-layered approach, not just
Well,
a how-to manual.
right. It's almost a philosophy of pleasure,
I love that.
right? I'm intrigued. And one thing that really, really caught my eye is that he weaves in scientific research
Interesting.
alongside his own personal anecdotes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
For example, he cites a study from the Journal of Sexual Medicine that found only about 55% of women consistently orgasm during intercourse.
Wow.
That got me thinking,
Yeah. Right, and that statistic kind of just underscores the central premise of she comes first.
Yeah.
It's all about shifting the focus away from like a purely goal-oriented approach to sex.
Right.
And really understanding the intricacies of female pleasure.
Yes.
It's not just about getting to a finish line.
No. And speaking of which, Kerner spends a lot of time talking about the clitoris.
Okay.
And I think it's something that even in today's world still gets kind of glossed over.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People are, I think, still a little squeamish to talk about.
Yeah. It's like we all know it's there, but let's not talk about it.
Right.
Well, Kerner dives right in. What did you find interesting about that part of the book?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is that you might be surprised to learn that the clitoris is actually much larger than most people realize.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not just the small visible nub,
Right.
but it's actually a complex structure that extends internally.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So Kerner emphasizes, he really emphasizes the importance of understanding its anatomy and how it plays a crucial role in female pleasure.
See, I think stuff like that, that's where it gets really fascinating because it makes you wonder how many misconceptions are out there impacting how we approach intimacy.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, have you ever stopped to think about the assumptions you might be carrying into your own relationships?
That's such a good question to ask yourself. I think we all have preconceived notions about a lot of things in life, and intimacy is definitely one of them.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting because Kerner doesn't just sort of leave us hanging with all this anatomical information.
Right.
He really stresses the importance of open and honest communication about it all.
Yeah, which is huge.
Yeah.
Because if you don't understand your own body, how are you going to talk to somebody else about it? And then how is somebody else supposed to understand what you like if you don't even understand it yourself?
Exactly. And it goes both ways, right?
Oh.
So you got to understand yourself. You got to be able to communicate about yourself.
Right.
But then you got to be able to listen and really understand what your partner's needs are as well.
Exactly.
So how does he suggest couples actually go about doing this?
Well, he even gives very specific tips on how to talk about pleasure.
Like what?
Well, for example, he suggests using I statements to express your desires and asking your partner open-ended questions about their needs.
Oh, that's so smart because it keeps it from becoming accusatory.
Exactly.
Right? It's not like you don't do this or why don't you do that? It's like, I really love when,
Yeah. This feels good for me, or can we try this? Or, just making it more of a collaborative exploration.
Yeah, I love that. It's not just about saying, hey, we need to communicate more. It's about really having those specific, vulnerable, even sometimes conversations.
Right. And it takes practice.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight, but it's definitely a skill that can be developed.
Right. And that kind of leads into another point that Kerner makes, which really resonated with me, and that's about patience.
Oh, yes.
This is a theme that comes up again and again in the book.
Patience is key in so many areas of life, and especially, I think, in intimacy.
Absolutely. So how does he sort of break that down?
Well, he constantly reminds us that intimacy isn't a race.
Okay.
It's a journey.
Okay.
And he uses this really great analogy of savoring a delicious meal.
Okay.
You wouldn't just scarf it down, right?
No.
You would take your time.
Savor each bite.
Yes, savor each bite,
Definitely.
appreciate the experience, the flavors, the textures. And I think that's such a beautiful way to think about intimacy as well.
Yeah, it's about slowing down and enjoying the process together.
Exactly.
Now, things get really interesting, I think, when Kerner starts talking about masculinity.
Yeah.
He's challenging a lot of the traditional ideas about what it means to be a good lover.
Yes.
What are some of those challenges that he throws out?
Well, he kind of flips the script on its head.
Oh,
He's suggesting that true masculinity in the context of intimacy is actually about being attentive and caring and prioritizing your partner's pleasure.
okay.
It's about moving away from this idea that it's all about speed or dominance.
So instead of just focusing on your own performance, it's really about being present,
Yes.
being in tune with your partner,
Yes.
understanding what brings them joy.
You got it.
Wow. That's a pretty powerful message that challenges a lot of societal norms around masculinity.
Yeah, and I think it's something that a lot of men, honestly, might struggle with initially. Because we're kind of conditioned to think a certain way about what it means to be a man, especially in the bedroom.
Right, exactly. It's like there's this performance pressure.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be this, you got to be that, and if you're not, then, you know, what's wrong with you?
Right, exactly. And Kerner really encourages men to let go of that pressure
I like that.
and to really focus on connecting with their partner on a deeper level.
So if we had to boil down the essence of she comes first, I think what we're learning here is that prioritizing a woman's pleasure
Yeah.
is not just about her.
Right.
It leads to greater satisfaction and connection for both partners.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that pleasure is a shared experience.
Yeah,
And by focusing on the woman's experience, the relationship as a whole benefits.
right. I love that. So I'm going to leave our listeners with this. If shifting the focus to your partner's pleasure can lead to greater happiness for both of you, how might that ripple effect impact other areas of your relationship? Think about communication, trust, intimacy, and even just the overall feeling of connection. Food for thought as you continue your own deep dive into the world of pleasure and intimacy.
That's a great question.
Thanks for joining me.
It was a pleasure.
Until next time.
Bye.